Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. Today, Georgia is voting. It is Election Day in Georgia's 6th District, where the former Secretary of State, Karen Handel, who oversaw the interstate cross-check bleaching of the 6th District, throwing African Americans and Korean Americans off the voting rolls. They will show up today and be told, sorry, I don't see your name. Here, have a provisional ballot. And they will think they voted, but their votes will not be counted. It's going to be real interesting to see how this thing plays out. CNN had a chyron, a lower third earlier, about, somehow about this was, a referendum essentially on Trump. No, it's a referendum on billionaire money. It's real simple. I mean, in the first vote, John Ossoff got 48% of the vote and Karen Handel got 20%. And then, now that it's just the two of them, the billionaire money has been flowing into the district, and Karen Handel is going up, 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 because the billionaires are buying. I mean, it's just wall-to-wall television ads down there. So we'll see. Will the billionaires win, or will the American people win? Speaking of billionaires, Donald Trump, you'll recall during the election campaign, came down on Ford really hard for moving a factory that manufactures the Ford Focus to Mexico. And famously, as I recall, it was during the campaign, Ford canceled their $1.6 billion plans to build this factory in Mexico. They said, okay, we won't do it. Well, now the other shoe drops. Bill Vlasic, writing in today's New York Times, in the Business Days section, the headline, very straightforward. They are doing exactly what Donald Trump and Ivanka are doing. Manufactured in China. The headline: Ford chooses China, not Mexico, to build its new Focus. Reading from the story, Ford Motors said on Tuesday it would build its next generation small car for American consumers in China rather than Mexico. The company was building a $1.6 billion assembly plan for the next Focus model in Mexico, but it ran into stiff opposition from President Trump and then canceled the project. Isn't that sweet? See, they know if they manufacture in China, Trump's not going to go after them because he now officially sucks up to President Xi. And of course, he's manufacturing his own goods. You buy Trump-branded stuff, they're made in China. You buy Ivanka stuff, they're made in China. In fact, there have been some really shocking stories in the press in the last few months about the conditions in the factories where Ivanka's stuff is made. So anyhow, just there's a bunch of stuff in the news that I wanted to just run by you. The New York Times today, Jason Zengerle, if I'm saying it right, Zengerle, wrote a fascinating piece, actually, in the New York Times Magazine, Is North Carolina the Future of American Politics? And if you look at the reader pick comments, you'll see that the second comment is from somebody in North Carolina saying, why is it that Art Pope is not mentioned anywhere in this article? Art Pope is a billionaire in North Carolina who became Pat McCrory's essentially right-hand man, and who basically, kind of boss hogs the state, kind of runs the state. And so many of North Carolina's policies and so many of North Carolina's politicians are, funded by, designed by, whatever. And thank you. And it's like there's no mention of it. Just, generally speaking, no mention of oligarchs at all in our media, especially now that Koch Industries is advertising on both MSNBC and CNN, and who knows where else. I mean, that's pretty much all I watch on television, and not that much of that, frankly, but somehow I manage to see the Koch ads every day. And, the New York Times had a piece today, actually, or maybe it was Financial Times, about, no, it was the New York Times. It's in their business section today, about how BP, Total, ExxonMobil, and one other oil company are now supporting a carbon tax. A carbon tax. But the Koch brothers hate a carbon tax, and so no mention of carbon tax on the network news. Strange? No, it's a commentary on America's, billionaire politics, basically. And of course, those Kochs, the Koch brothers are among the most bitter opponents of Obamacare, of the Affordable Care Act. they funded those Generation Freedom or whatever it was ads where, you know, creepy Uncle Sam with the speculum and the rubber gloves and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they hate Obamacare. Why? Because Obamacare provides subsidies to middle and lower income Americans, and it gets the money for those subsidies, whether it's Medicaid expansion or whether it's the direct subsidies for buying health insurance on the exchanges. It gets the money to pay for those by raising the tax on people who, you know, mostly billionaires who make their living on capital gains. Right now, that up until the Affordable Care Act passed, the top tax on capital gains. Capital gains is money that you make using money rather than money that you make using your brain or using your body, right? I mean, if you're a surgeon, you can make $400,000 a year and pay a 39% income tax using your body and your brain. If you're a whatever you do, if you work for a living, you're subject to a 39.5% top income tax rate. But I mean, you got to make $400,000 to hit it, but you know, it's there. But if you make money with money, for some reason that's a protected class, a special class, a unique class. These people are so just like, you know, they glow in the dark. They're so wonderful. They're like, you know, the people who make money with money are just like, they're angels, right? And so we have to give them a lower tax rate. It's 20%. Well, when they were putting together Obamacare, and they had more than 20 public hearings, and they took more than 20 Republican amendments, which, by the way, the Senate is not doing right now. They're not going to let the Democrats amend anything. They're not going to let them see anything. I mean, you know, it's pretty gross what's going on in the Senate. And the entire thing is about the taxes, and nobody's going to talk about that, right? The billionaires are really upset because to fund Obamacare, they raised the capital gains tax, which the billionaires were so happy. Oh, we only pay 20% maximum taxes. They raised that to 23.9%. The extra 3.9% raises $60 billion a year, which pays for your Medicare, well, if you're on Medicare, it pays for your Medicare expansion into the states, and it pays for your subsidies if you're buying Obamacare. And those billionaires do not want to be paying those taxes. So I'm telling you, America has an oligarch problem. We've got a serious oligarch problem. And one of the best toadies of the oligarchs was Tom Price. He was a member of Congress for years and years. In fact, it was Georgia 6 that Tom Price came from, wasn't it? Yeah. So that race that's happening today is to replace Tom Price. And Tom Price is now in charge of Medicare and Medicaid as the Secretary of Health and Education, or HHS nowadays, Health and Human Services, I guess. And used to be HEW. But they split off the Education Department. Anyhow, so Tom Price, #1 toady for the billionaires, being drilled by Jeff Merkley in the Senate yesterday. This is brilliant. Check this out.
So you're telling me you're working for the president and you do not share his opinion on this?
No, I'm saying that what I know about the president's concerns are that he wants the American people to have access.
Just to set this up, the president had Trump had a meeting last week with a bunch of Republican senators, and he said, you know, this bill that came over from the House, it's mean. It's a son of a, you know, the B word. And so here's Merkley now drilling Price on this.
About the president's concerns are that he wants the American people to have access to the highest quality care.
Did the president call the House bill mean, the Trump care bill mean, because it potentially eliminates health care for millions of Americans? Is that the reason?
I don't know why. All I know is what I read in the paper on that, because I wasn't at the meeting.
You talk to the president all the time, didn't you? You haven't asked him why he called it mean?
With him.
Did he call it mean because it raises the cost of insurance for older Americans, an 8-fold increase for a man in his 60s earning $26,500? Is that why he called it mean?
Yeah, I would disagree with that characterization.
You disagree with the example?
I do.
Okay, well, then maybe you should talk to CBO about their calculation, because it comes directly from the provisions, the premium provisions that were put in by the House. Did he call it mean because it eliminates the guarantee of Americans with pre-existing conditions having equal access to insurance at the same price?
Yeah, again, I would disagree with the characterization.
Did he call it mean because it eliminates the guarantee that insurance policies will not, the guarantee that they will have essential care benefits?
I disagree with the characterization.
But it does eliminate it. So I don't know why you would
sir.
disagree. I'd encourage you to read the House bill, since you are the Secretary of Health. Did he call it mean because it takes a wrecking ball to rural health care by putting rural clinics and rural hospitals into a financial crisis?
That's not what it does, sir.
It does indeed. And does he call it mean because while stripping health care from millions of Americans, it gives a tax giveaway of roughly $600 billion to the richest Americans? Is that why he called it mean?
Yeah, again, I would disagree with your characterization.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would disagree with your characterization. That's his way of saying, I'm not saying. Elizabeth Warren. This is on the Hill today, Jordan Carney writing. Elizabeth Warren saying, quote, we've gotten in my opinion, the next president of the United States, Elizabeth Warren. We're going to be talking about Mike Pence a little bit later on. Anyhow, Senator Elizabeth Warren, she says, we've gotten an avalanche of voicemails and phones are ringing off the hook. Since last week, I've gotten more than 1,000 phone calls from people who are pleading with me to do whatever I can to stop Republicans. Senate Republicans want to, she said, these were examples of people that the Senate Republicans want to kick to the curb, and Americans are terrified down to their bones. People, Elizabeth Warren said, people are literally in tears on the phone. They are scared and they are angry. And then she went on to say, I have a message for these Senate Republicans. We don't care how long we have to stand up here. Democrats are here to keep demanding that you show us this bill, and we're going to keep insisting that you account for its shameful contents. Now is the time for you to call your senators. If they're Republicans, call them and give them hell. If they're Democrats, call them and encourage them to stand up to the Republicans. The number for the United States Senate switchboard, 202-225-3121. 202-225-3121. Call your senator.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And then we'll talk about Mike Pence and a few other things. The Supreme Court. It's amazing what's going on. Stick around.